ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وجاءوا أباهم عشاء يبكون قالوا يا أبانا إنا ذهبنا نستبق وتركنا يوسف عند متاعنا فأكله الذئب وما أنت بمؤمن لنا ولو كنا صادقين. Many of the brothers of Yusuf والسلام, after throwing him down the well, they came to their father at night at the time of Isha, and they were crying crocodile tears. It was all an act. And they said, "Oh, our father, verily we had gone to compete with one another in races. We were racing with one another. And we had left Yusuf والسلام, by our goods. And then a wolf came and the wolf ate him up. And we know you won't believe in us, even though we are truthful." A person whose case is the weakest, normally he makes the biggest amount of sound. So they said, "Let's see, we are definitely truthful, but we know you're not going to believe in us because you don't trust us. But this is actually the reality." And then thereafter Yaqub والسلام, they tried to even prove their case more. They brought to him the kurta of Yusuf والسلام, وَجَاءُوا عَلَى قَمِيصِهِ بِدَمٍ كَذِبٍ. They brought the kurta, on top of it was false blood. That means they had cut an animal. Maybe they used some ulama say it was a wolf or some other animal. They had cut the animal and then they put it on top of the kurta and they brought it. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it such that people, when they are trying to cheat and deceive, they do some mistake, so that the people of the world can see that these people have done something wrong. So what they had done was, when they brought the kurta, they had taken it and they had not torn it to pieces. So Yaqub والسلام, told them, this was a very intelligent wolf. He ate my son, but he didn't tear the cloth. You just got a kurta, you got a kameez, it's full of blood, but there's no tears. Normally if the animal is not attack you, obviously it will be completely torn. So immediately Yaqub والسلام, understood these people were deceiving. So anyhow, he told them this here. So one point the ulama mentioned here about nastabiqu, that they said that we went for racing. So they say in Islam also they've given the permissibility for racing with one another, especially that which will be beneficial for a person. And Nabi والسلام, himself, the most amount of fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala he had, the most amount of taqwa he had in his life, the most amount of fear of akhirat he had. But still to teach the ummah of Nabi wasallam himself, they used to have races, so sometimes on the horses also, and sometimes once Nabi wasallam, it happened a couple of times, one person asked Sahabi that, "Did you people have races in the time of Nabi wasallam? And did Nabi wasallam himself take part in the races?" He said, "Yes." Once Rasulullah wasallam, he also had a race on a horse, and he had one animal which the name of it was called Subha. And this horse, he used to beat all the other horses. And Rasulullah wasallam was very happy with this horse, and he was very surprised with this horse, that this horse is so fast. But in one hadith it comes that Nabi wasallam's horse, normally nobody used to ever beat it. But then once one horse came and beat Nabi wasallam's horse, other Sahaba would become upset about it. And then Nabi wasallam said, "No, Allah's system is in the world that everything which goes up, it must come down." Allah Ta'ala shows that there is always somebody better, and so that no takabbur and pride comes into a person. Also Nabi wasallam, recently we had done that hadith where Hazrat Aisha radiallahu anha says that I had a race once with Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and I beat Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He kept quiet. After some time had passed, and she said I picked up some weight. Then he had a race with me, and then Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam beat me. And then he told me, "Hadi bitilka sabaqa." This one is in place of that one day. Now we are equal now. We both had a race. Similarly, there's an incident of Hazrat Salma ibn Akwa radiallahu anhu. He was a very fast runner. Hazrat Salma ibn Akwa radiallahu anhu. There are many incidents mentioned about his how fast he was. The one famous story which comes, I think, in Fazail Amal also, where he chased all the kuffar himself, and how he managed to beat them. So once in the time of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam put him on one animal going back to Medina Munawwara. While they were going, there was one person of the Ansaar. Nobody could beat him actually. So he said, "Anybody to race me till Medina Munawwara? Is anyone to race me?" And he kept repeating this here. So when I heard him saying this all the time, I said, "You know what? I'm not frightened. I'm ready to do it." So he said, "Okay, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, but he must say it first." So then he asked Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam permission. Nabi sallallahu said, "Go." And then he said, "I went." So I let him beat me by one or two valleys. He must go in front, and I allowed him to go so much front. And then I started chasing him thereafter, and I ran so fast that eventually I caught up with him, and I gave him one shot on his shoulders, and I continued running fast, and eventually I reached Medina Munawwara. Anyhow, he's an extremely fast runner. In the other hadith, it comes actually with the horses also. He used to actually beat the horses. You know how fast the horse moves. But anyhow, he used to actually beat the horse. So this is one type of race in the time of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Another one was wrestling also. There used to be muqabala, competition in the time of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There was a famous story also of Rukana. He was a very strong kafir in the time of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said that I'll go to Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam and tell him that if you wrestle with me, then I'm prepared to accept Islam. And he was such a person who never ever lost any. He was an extremely strong wrestler. But anyhow, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam wrestled with him also, and Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam brought him down, and he gave shahadat and he accepted Islam. Hazrat Samurai ibn Jundub radiallahu anhu, he wanted to go in a certain battle, but Nabi alayhi salam didn't allow him because he was still young. So he told Nabi of Allah, I'm stronger than this person here, and he's a young person. You allowed him to enter into the battle. Why are you not allowing me? So Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam let them have a wrestling match, and then the one won. He won the match. So then Nabi alayhi salatu wasallam allowed him to take part in that battle also. Similarly, they used to have the bow and arrow shooting. They used to have competitions at certain times. And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to encourage this here because this is also a great way of encouraging a person for jihad, person preparing himself. In today's time, if a person even uses guns or whatever, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said he saw two jamaats one day, and then one group was shooting arrows, and Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw, and the second jamaat, they were not shooting any arrows. So Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked them, "Ma lakum la tarmun?" How come you're not shooting arrows? So the Sahaba said, how can we shoot while it's your own Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you are with them? Then Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, no, you shoot, don't worry, I'm with all of you people. And you continue shooting. They felt that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is in the other jamaat. So how can we shoot our arrows while Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is there? And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam actually gave a lot of encouragement. Even in today's time, people say for the strength of a body, to archery is extremely beneficial for the body. Even in today's time, there are different forms of weaponry. And Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam said, "Allimu khilmanakum al-aum wa maqatilatakum al-ramya." Teach your youngsters how to swim, and also teach them to archery. This is very beneficial for the body. And other ulama say in today's times that the word which Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam went was throw. So anything which a person is throwing. So they say in today's time all weaponry also which is used. Example, guns in the day. It's also a kind of Rami. In the Arabic language, they use the word Rami for it also. It's also a kind of throwing where a person is shooting a bullet. So this is also kind of, it's a kind of shooting. So there's also in one hadith, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, إِنَّ الْمَلَائِكَةَ لَا تَحْضَرَ مِنْ لَهْوِكُمْ إِلَّا الرِّحَانِ وَالنِّضَالِ. The angels are not present in any of your lahu, any of your games, except when you are shooting with one another, or when you are having races with one another, trying to beat one another. This is for exercise, and the person is trying to benefit himself. So anyhow, this comes in the hadith of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam also. And finally also one other kind of which is encouraged in the hadith is swimming. In the kitabs of Sirah it is mentioned that Nabi alayhi salam, at that time he was quite small. He went to Najjar, and there was a small house there. It was filled up with water. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, I used to live in this house here, and I used to swim when I was a small boy in this place here. And then in some hadith also Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam had given encouragement. Remember in that time in Makkah Mukarramah there was no water places around. They had given encouragement. Also in swimming there is great benefit for a person's body. The other day we had discussed a bit in detail about the masail of playing and all the laws of it. But one important point when it comes to swimming also, that normally for the women folk, or even for the men folk, the kind of clothing we wear when the person swims, we should encourage, we should ensure that our sitar is covered properly. And also what happens sometimes is, some ulama have mentioned that especially for women folk, if they're when you're wearing that certain kind of clothing and you go in the water, then the clothing sticks to a person's body. So it's very immoral. For example, a woman swimming with her own children, a woman swimming with her sons. If a husband and wife are there alone, it's a different story. But a woman swimming in front of their children or whoever is growing up, because the clothing sticks to the body and the whole shape of the body is shown. And this also is not permissible. It's just like a person is naked when the whole body or the whole shape of the body of a person is shown. So we should be with ihtiyat and precaution in this matter also. So where permission is given also, but we should keep in mind the hudud and the boundaries of Shariat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us to understand. SubhanAllah.